Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures. Tactical Treasures is a podcast that gives our mil spouses and military veterans a place to speak about their service, what they're doing post-service, and how they're affecting their communities. And they share with me a tactical treasure or a memento or a piece of advice from their military experience that has shaped their journey in their business, life, or career. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of speaking with Mark Harper, and I'll just read a little bit about Mark. Mark Harper joined the U.S. Air Force after commissioning through ROTC and graduating from RPI Institute in Troy, New York. For most of his Air Force career, Captain Harper was the video flight commander of the 1st Combat Camera Squadron. There, he led combat-ready documentary teams to provide the world insight into military operations, contingencies, exercises, weapons tests, and humanitarian relief operations. After nearly 7 years of service, Mark began pursuing a career in the film industry, working on films such as 13 Hours, Thank You for Your Service, and Hunter Killer, where he advised movie studios on their messaging and marketing when dealing with military themes. Mark also worked in the interactive marketing department on films such as Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Star Trek, and was the co-founder of Odyssey, a 20 million headphone company. Today, Mark is the president and CEO of We Are the Mighty, where he works to bring engaging, inspiring, and informative content to the military community. Hi, Mark. Welcome to Tactical Treasures. So, wow.
Hi there.
Hi there. What an interesting military career. You're, video flight commander.
Yes.
Taking the combat-ready teams, providing world insight to all of us as to what goes on behind the scenes. How exciting and interesting. I would love to hear more about that.
Yes, that was a very amazing opportunity that I had in the Air Force. It was actually my dream job, if you can believe it, because I had a background in video production in undergrad, and it truly was my and still is my passion. It's creating stories, telling stories, and so combat camera is a very unique position across all services. Some I think in the Navy now, they've dropped combat camera and everything kind of just rolls directly underneath public affairs. But we were the teams that would go in to help share stories for natural disasters, for contingencies like Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, for weapons tests, for exercises, for humanitarian relief efforts. There was a lot to share and to tell about our military community. And we were the eyes and ears on the ground doing that for either officials in the Pentagon or for decision makers that were local, and even just for historical reference. This is the type of content that I think back in the day, me growing up, would be the stuff I'd see on the History Channel.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it was really an amazing job with some truly incredible and talented individuals who are on my teams.
Wow. That's so interesting, because now when you turn on the TV, there's so much content out there that you can actually see and understand what's going on. And I think it really does lend itself to movies like you've worked on G.I. Joe, and even like Thank You for Your Service and 13 Hours. 13 Hours, I think that was the Benghazi story. Is that correct?
It was.
Yes.
And so we helped with the marketing over at We Are the Mighty for that. That one of many films that we've helped connect our military community to.
Right. But the messaging has to be really spot on if Hollywood is going to produce a kind of true to form story, correct? And that's, of course, where you helped out, right?
Absolutely. So, there's no shortage of military advisors out there in the community for Hollywood studios. It just depends on whether or not they actively find a good one to help make sure that they're telling the story as authentically as possible.
True.
And for that particular film, for 13 hours, they had some really great individuals who were helping that. And Michael Bay, to his credit, does a very good job of bringing in advisors and then having everything fact checked, and really takes a lot of care in making sure that those stories are told correct.
Yeah, that's important. That's important. So tell us about We Are the Mighty and the work that you're doing there.
Yeah, so We Are the Mighty started in 2014 by a gentleman by the name of David Gale. So he was the former head of MTV Films, and probably right before 2014, 2013 timeframe, he started to identify that there was a lack of a platform and a brand for the military community to share their stories. And so if we think back to what David Gale was doing at that time as being the head of MTV Films, he was creating things like the Jackass franchise. He was creating Varsity Blues, Napoleon Dynamite, Kings of Comedy, Election. A lot of great films that people grew up on who were in the Gen X, Gen Y time frame. And he also had MTV, the channel, to help with the marketing efforts for all of that. And so what We Are the Mighty was initially designed to be is a platform, yes, to share and tell those stories, but to figure out what and which of those stories were resonating with the military community in a way that we could channel them up into potentially TV and film projects. Now that's all easier said than done, but in 2014, David started the company. I was there on day one when we flipped the switch onto the website, and our MTV channel was wearethemighty.com and our We Are the Mighty social media channels as well. And we set off creating content and building our social media profiles, and haven't stopped since, actually. We did have a couple of really unique opportunities to create shows. We've had a handful of shows stream on platforms like Roku. We've got two that are actually streaming in all the VA hospitals across the US right now. And we had a couple stream on a now defunct platform called Go90, which was Verizon's endeavors back, I think, in like the 2017, 2018 timeframe. So we did get a chance to execute some of that, but the bulk of the work that we do is connecting brands to the military community in a very authentic way. And so we do a lot of branded content. We do a lot of work actually for the VA as well in terms of storytelling. And we've done a handful of national commercials with them as well. Our most recent was a commercial that we did for suicide prevention for in conjunction with the Ad Council and the VA. Mm. And that is, I think, airing right now. And it's a Don't Wait, Reach Out campaign that we had the ability on our side to put, and on every project, we have military veteran directors, producers, and then as many actors from the military community as we can that make sense for the project. So you're really getting these stories told from a very authentic perspective. And it's what allows us to really keep telling stories to the community.
I've seen that ad actually on TV. I think it just started running.
Yes, it should be right now.
Hello, listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for tuning into Tactical Treasures podcast. So I would like to invite you to check out Vet TV. Vet TV is an online streaming television network that specializes in producing and distributing veteran and military themed and focused films and television series. Military veterans, even civilians, check out vettv.com. It's $4.99 a month to join. And you will see a lot of veteran themed and military themed TV shows, A Grunt's Life, and even the JDog Operation Hidden Treasure show season 1 is airing right now as we speak. And it's really, I think, a very good insight as to what our military service members have experienced. And you get a kind of bird's eye view as to how they served our country. So what piece of content do you think that you were most especially proud of or excited to be a part of, maybe while you were doing your military service or after the fact?
Okay. That's interesting. The one I'm most proud of is probably one of the biggest responsibilities that I think I had, especially as a junior officer in the Air Force. So in 2005, when the Iraqis had their national election, it was our job, as in Combat Camera's job, to tell the story of what was actually happening at the polls. So there were a handful of polls that were dispersed across the country of Iraq, and they were classified locations up until just right before, and that was to stop the insurgents from prepping and trying to get in the middle of that process, right? So our job was either to tell the story that the 36 coalition country coalition was working and democracy was prevailing, or it was to tell Iraqis to not go to their specific poll because it was dangerous and people were in jeopardy. Either way, it took a lot of planning because it took a lot of planning to move imagery back in 2005 in a war-torn country.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh,
especially
yeah.
just being 2005, we didn't have things like even working phone lines, let alone internet. And so we were having to figure out ways to get inside a polling area, document what was happening, and then utilize satellite terminals to beam that imagery and that video footage back to Baghdad, where we had an imagery management team, and then move all of that imagery through public affairs to make sure that it got out to newswide world outlets, to, again, the decision makers that were there locally, and then to the individuals back at the Pentagon to really have an understanding of what was taking place that specific day. So when you woke up on December 15th, 2005, and you saw those purple fingers, the I have voted fingers from the Iraqi population, it was because of the 79 videographers and photographers that we had deployed across the country that were
Wow.
doing that. And I have to say, even though it was like almost a 3-day lead up, 24-hour operation, it did go off without a hitch, shockingly. And it was such a collective, amazing story to be able to tell because it went out on a global platform at that point. The entire world saw the work that was being done by our DoD and then the rest of the countries that were participating in that. And so it was really cool to see direct impact from photographer to this is now on CNN. Those types of moments don't happen all the time.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow, what a story. And sounds like quite the work all of you did was pretty amazing.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's really great. I hear that there's some exciting news for We Are the Mighty recently. Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah. So earlier this year, we were acquired by a company called Recurrent Ventures. And we now sit alongside two other publishers in this space called Task and Purpose and The War Zone. And then collectively, the three publishers plus our two events, the Military Influencer Conference and Military Spouse Fest, all of us together equal the largest syndication of digital military publishers in the space. And that's very exciting because back in 2014, we couldn't have imagined a world where were able to reach the scale and size that we do now. So we're now doing almost 18 million page views a month across those three publishers. And then our on the ground presence in the community itself is that extra added connective tissue to our connected military community. And it's really such an amazing entire platform that we've now become. And we're now able to serve the military community in such a massive way.
Wow, how exciting. That's really great. Yeah, the MIC, that's coming up soon. Looking forward to it. We'll be there. Hello, listeners, viewers. Thank you for tuning into Tactical Treasures Podcast. So I would like to introduce you to IW, or Irreverent Warriors. The JDog Foundation helps sponsor their what they call silky hikes. So it's an amazing time of camaraderie and mental wellness for our veterans who have served our country. They get together and do hikes probably in close to 80 cities across the country. And lots of veterans show up, probably 150 to 200 veterans or more, and they hike 10 miles through the city. And it's a great time to connect, tell stories, and support one another and encourage one another in their mental wellness. And I encourage you to find out more about it. Veterans, military service people, if you're looking for a way to connect, this is a great way to do it. Check out irreverentwarriors.org and find where the next hike is, hopefully close to your location. So I would like to dive into your tactical treasure. I'm really excited to hear about that.
Absolutely. So my tactical treasure is actually this boonie hat that I had made in Africa, of all places, in Djibouti, Africa. And on it, it shows the combat camera, Ernie the Eagle, squadron mascot slash morale patch. It shows the dates that I served for these two deployments.
Oh, wow.
And it has my rank on here as well. And I made two of these, but swapped out the names on them. And this was part of my post-military career pre-planning. So I had been talking with or had been connected to a high-ranking individual at NBC Universal. And he just happened to take the email at the time, the connection, and said he was willing to meet with me should I be able to make my way out to Hollywood someday. And he took it because I had this incredible combat camera story, right? At the end of the day, what I did was I acted as a producer in the field with a handful, depending on what it was. And in Iraq, it was almost 80 people as part of the quote unquote production team. But it would be anywhere from 1 to 2 people out in the field all the way up to 80 in my experience. And that was interesting to him and to many people because they didn't and don't really understand what combat camera is, as opposed to what maybe straight public affairs and reporting is. And just as a side note, the difference is we would go out into the field to capture whatever events were going on, sound bites, clips, etc. We couldn't even ask someone, can you move a little bit to the left? Can you move a little bit to the right so we can get the shot a little bit better?
Right, yeah.
We had to be completely invisible to the scene. And it was part of the actual mission itself. We would take this footage and we would go back and hand it to public affairs, who would then take it and disseminate it to global media outlets. And also they would use it to spin the particular story that they were trying to tell in the local area. We'd also take the same information, send it directly to the Pentagon, who would see unfettered, here's what's happening on the ground. And sometimes it was like things like firefights. Or it would also go to psychological operations, which is a weird thing to get your head wrapped around. But the imagery that we would be taking would be used in different places, for example, in Iraq, to say, hey, these individuals are doing good things for the community. Be like them, turn in the insurgents, help us help you, that kind of stuff. And so at any rate, this story was great to this individual out there. And I said, I'm going to make this deal even sweeter. I'm going to bring you back a token of my appreciation from overseas. And I made him, his own boonie hat, so that when I was able to finally walk into that meeting that had kind of been set a year in advance, I was giving something at the same time as my ask. And my ask was really, what do I do out here in Los Angeles? I have no clue. But you got to start somewhere, right? And that meeting begot other meetings, And through a lot of networking, I ended up at, working at Paramount Interactive Marketing on those films you outlined earlier, through a company called Technicolor, and then that Odyssey company. And then finally in 2014, starting at We Are the Mighty, which really felt like a culmination of all the things I'd ever done professionally in my life had all kind of come together in one unique opportunity. What that was, We Are the Mighty.
Oh, wow. I love that hat. That's really great. Do you still wear it?
Well, it's not more of a wear thing as much as it's an on the wall thing because I would ruin
Oh,
it if I wore it. But
that's right.
I remember when I gave this to the contact at Universal, he said, "I'm going to wear this every single time I go fishing." So hopefully he's
Okay.
still wearing it and he
Uh,
remembers me every time he puts it on.
that's
Speaking of which, I
great.
should probably reach out and say hello. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, that's really great. I love the hat. It's awesome. And I think it's neat that you chose to come up with something, a memento of what you did in the service and everywhere that you were. I think that's really special. Um, do you think it's important for other veterans to have keepsakes from the military and of their time of service?
I mean, if you ask my wife, who ironically was in the military, she's a Marine veteran. She would say, no, get rid of all that junk. Maybe even
Oh,
call up JDog to haul it away. Um, but there's those special things, right, that you want to keep, you want to look at, you want to have that remind you of that world. And, what I learned coming out to Los Angeles is there were like two different camps that I fell into. The people that were fascinated by the work that I had done, but were really confused about the military in general. And then the people that had zero interest at all in me being a veteran because they couldn't get their head wrapped around what that meant to them and where to stick me in their brain. And so I lost my military identity for the first handful of years that I was in Los Angeles as I hid it from employer to employer. Now, it was helpful at Paramount because Paramount was specifically looking for somebody that had a modicum of knowledge about the military community and how to integrate that in marketing. But jobs after that, it didn't play any relevance and it often just kind of confused people more than anything else. Um, in many people's minds, we are just individuals that can hold a weapon no matter what we did in the military, which is a broad, unfair generalization as a
true.
whole, but one that we are the mighty military influencer conference operations like yourself like help dispel every day.
Right.
We bring a very unique and amazing experience set to any organization, period. And so I think that these little keepsakes connect us back to that world that we lived in, if it's not even directly applicable every day. But it was a part of my identity for the better
Mhm.
part of 7 years and a super important part of like who I am as a human being.
True. And I think it's part of your legacy. I mean, if you have children or, um, that you can pass on the values of your military service and instill that in your children and have some mementos to share about your experience and what it was like to serve your country. I think it's important. Is there any other piece of advice that you might have for your fellow veterans, especially that are transitioning? Because, I think, believe me, if I had, a dollar for every time I heard of a veteran who gets out and tries to transition into the civilian world and struggles, I think I'd be a gazillionaire. We just hear it all the time, and it's a
Yeah.
common thing. And my whole take on it is, I just think the civilian world needs to understand our veterans better. And I think there's a lot of ways that I think even today that are being done. Not only this podcast where I get to talk to amazing veterans and their experience and how they transitioned and what they're doing now to, just, We Are the Mighty and Vet TV and just so many genres that are coming out to school, shall I say, the civilian community as to what our veterans are all about and what their struggles are when they get out. But would you have any advice
I
to
do.
fellow service
The
people?
one thing that the military is, at least when I was in, not so great at doing was really delivering the impact of what networking means to you,
Mm,
as someone who both a personal but professional relationship wise. Uh, and what better way to network than by going to the Military Influencer Conference, which is something that is a real incredible event that we've been building over the past several years. It's actually how I got introduced to the JDog brand itself. But there's something about Military Influencer Conference, the people that go to it, the collaboration, the different pillars and the different tracks of lessons that you can learn while you're there, that is truly something that can help any individual either make a pivot in their life, help with their transition themselves, or get connected to like-minded individuals who can help you with your next step in your journey. And so maybe we'll miss it for this year, but my recommendation for anyone to come out and see what this event is really about, and become part of the success story that we have. We have so many people that have come back to us to say, here's my MIC story. And that's been really amazing to kind of hear, witness, and be a part of.
Yeah. And don't worry, we'll get the word out. I think we'll make sure that we get this information out to the masses so that everybody knows. And I can understand MIC, and I went there as Jerry's wife, a veteran spouse. But I wasn't a mil spouse because I didn't serve with him. And, I'm a very patriotic American. But I remember thinking to myself, how do I navigate my way through MIC? And this was MIC 2019. And I remember being very nervous. But one thing I found is, because of JDog, in March, I had recently had the honor of appearing on the Military Spouse magazine, on the cover and inside, talking about what it was like to work in a veteran business and be a co-founder with my husband. And the mil spouse community at that MIC was just amazing, just so embracing. Right. And the veterans themselves, they just made me feel so welcome. And here I was, I just felt very humbled by myself being a civilian, just amongst all these just amazing veterans and mil spouses, that, my hats go off to their service to our country. And, but, they just have so much warmth and so much to offer, and just to see they just want to be, I think, embraced by the civilian and American people, and and they're just so embracing of us and all that we do for them. So, but it was a wonderful experience. I remember meeting just amazing people there, amazing people. And I think I'm glad that it's coming back finally, and that I think it's just a great place and a great connection for veterans to plug into and to go.
I think it's where I met you.
Yes.
I think the first time was at the bar, right outside the main area. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah. We were just hanging out watching football, and I don't know, it just turned into, I met Tessa there. I met amazing mil spouses, Stephanie Brown.
That's right.
Maria Reed, I think. Oh my gosh, it was just amazing. I met so many. I met you there. I met a lot of people. It was just an amazing experience, and a great time to connect, and to definitely network and get yourself plugged in. Yeah. Well, so if people want to learn more about what you guys are doing and what your next venture is, where can they find you?
WeAreTheMighty.com. It's always a good place just to constantly keep in your bookmarks. But the Military Influencer Conference can be found at militaryinfluencer.com. Visit taskandpurpose.com, thewarzone.com. All of these are great connective pieces for our military community. A lot of great stories told every day.
Oh, wow. That's great. Awesome. Mark, it was such a pleasure speaking with you today. And thank you so much for everything that you shared. I think it was, your treasure was very special, and love the hat. I think every now and then, I think you should take it off the wall and just wear it just for fun.
Sure.
Have a hat day at work or something. We do crazy stuff. We do crazy stuff here like that at JDog all the time.
Yeah.
But it was such a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thanks, you too.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to Tactical Treasures today. We have just been chatting with Mark Harper, and he is talking about an exciting event coming up that is taking place in Las Vegas this year at Resort World. It's the MIC Conference, or Military Influencers Conference 2022. It's an exciting 3-day event of veterans and mil spouses and anybody attached to the military community to get involved and come. It's filled with breakout sessions and speakers of military nature and mil spouse speakers. It's a very exciting event. There's booze, vendors, and you can learn all about it at mic.com. So veterans, military community, if you're looking for a way to connect, please check out mic.com and consider coming.